Welcome to episode 23 of News for the Blues. It's been a little while. The last time you would have saw me would have been on the balcony when I was away, when we got the news through that we had to pay Burnley a lot of money. Obviously, we did a podcast when we signed Hayden Hackney as well. We've been a little bit quiet. We've been a little bit quiet over the summer, but I'm back. Obviously, the main podcast will be back as well the weekend before the season starts, so a big Premier League preview show. But a lot's been going on, hasn't it? Obviously, the transfer window well and truly in full swing now, post-World Cup. As I said, then obviously Hayden Hackney's come in. We made the deal for Maitland Rule permanent. Tyreek George obviously made that deal permanent as well. And a couple of days ago, the confirmation came through that we'd signed Christian Nørgaard from Arsenal. That's number 6 position that was left vacant by Saga, with him obviously not coming back to the club and moving across to a club in Saudi Arabia. So the Christian Nørgaard deal, I think, is a very good one. I think it's very clever. I think he only played 16 times across all competitions last season for Arsenal. Brought in, obviously, to a very talented squad from Brentford. But brought in maybe more so for his leadership qualities, how he is in the dressing room. I know Declan Rice has spoken last season in regards to obviously the quality that he brings to the dressing room. But listen, he's a very good footballer. Was he 32 years of age at the fabulous time at Brentford, full international of course as well. So I'm quite excited to see what he can do. Taking the number 23 shirt, obviously worn by a certain Seamus Coleman for many, many years. Obviously with him departing, that shirt became available. And Nørgaard takes that. So excited to see him in a blue shirt for the first time. Won't come this weekend, as we know. He's still at Finch Farm, but we'll meet up with the players when they return from Germany. But I think overall the window so far has been okay. We brought 4 players in permanently. Obviously, a couple of those players were at the club last season. The right-back situation rumbles on, which is always a bit of a concern. We can go back over many transfer windows and summers where we feel we should have done work in that area. It wasn't done last year. We thought we had obviously Kenny Tete, who was on a free from Fulham. We thought that was in the bag. Didn't happen. We're in a position now where we've gone through obviously a few targets so far. Obviously there was early links to the likes of Douay, Jed Spence, Wan-Bissaka. They all seem to have gone away. The strongest link we had was with Johnston, obviously from Celtic, Canadian international. All the talk was that deal was fairly close, but there was definitely a gap in the valuations. Celtic obviously wanted more than what Everton were prepared to offer. He played the first game of the season on Monday for Celtic. I'm sure a lot of us tuned in to have a little look at him there against Dundee. And the feeling was post-match that was him saying goodbye. Interest seems to have been cooled, according to reports out of Scotland, which leaves us in a situation again where you're thinking, well, who's going to come in? Is it a simple case of, like with Hayden Hackney, where there's a bit of backwards and forwards? Everton sort of stepped away because they weren't happy with what Middlesbrough was saying. If Celtic want a sale, he said he wants to come to Everton as well, which, similar to Hayden Hackney in that sense, that he was telling the club that he wants to come to Everton. So we'll see how that plays out. But there has been other links since then. There's certainly interest. There's certainly conversations for Baku at Leipzig. That is going on. So that's fairly interesting to keep an eye on there. Is it Diatta as well, former Monaco player who can play at left back, right back, or he can also play as a winger, Senegalese international. So another one. So how far he's on a free. So whether that might be more appealing to the football club. At a decent World Cup, I think he played maybe 4 appearances in the World Cup as well. So somebody, again, he's got Senegalese teammates in Iliman Ndiaye at the football club. Whether that can be a bit of a factor, maybe. So what's the space on that one? Because there's interest there. But I think we'll all agree that it's a position that has got to be sold. It's got to be sorted. And the fact that we're now in well into August, and we're still in a position where we haven't signed a right back. It's a bit of a concern, really, isn't it? You'd want to go into that first game of the season with your sort of new look back four. We can argue about the left back position. As News had a decent pre-season, hasn't he? I think every time I've seen him, I think the energy he shows, I think the attitude he shows is most importantly, is he wants to go on, he wants to impress the manager. Hopefully we see more of him against Stuttgart tomorrow. The chances are that you will see Mykhalenko starting the game against Crystal Palace. But the rest of the back four for me should be Branthwaite alongside Jake O'Brien, two centre halves, and obviously then a new right back playing in the right back position. That's what I feel. I think that is the future. I think watching James Tarkowski last season over the course of pre-season, which you shouldn't read in too much, of course, but he certainly slowed. I think now is the time to potentially, now is the time for me to have your two best centre halves, your two youngest centre halves in Branthwaite and O'Brien forming a partnership. That's my personal opinion. But most definitely that right back position has got to be sorted, and it's got to be sorted quickly. But in terms of outgoings, just mentioned obviously about Iliman Ndiaye still at the football club. We know Garner and Coleman have left. There's been no sales. There's been links. Iliman Ndiaye's been the biggest one. Al Hilal loads of talk. Was it last week before? They've agreed a deal with the player, but they hadn't agreed a fee with Everton. Everton won north of 75 million pounds. So you either pay it or he doesn't move. It's as simple as that. Now they seem to have cooled their interest, which is absolutely fine because he's a fabulous player. He's better with us than without us, in my opinion. There is interest there from Manchester United, Arsenal as well. There's a bit of talk, obviously, about Vinicius Junior going to Arsenal. I don't think that was really ever on, but they are in the market for wide players. So Ndiaye's been mentioned. They do like him. So I'm not saying it's over, but the signs currently and the talk out of the club currently is that the player is fine at the football club. He's happy. Everton haven't got to sell him. I think that the links to wingers that we've seen in recent weeks very much are a case of they're only there because we're looking at potentially having to replace Iliman Ndiaye if he does move. But currently, he's back. He joined up with the players in Germany. He's been taking part in pre-season training. Chances are he might get sort of a handful of minutes this weekend as well. So he's there, he's happy, and we'll see how it plays out. But in terms of any other sales, the only real other links that we've had is obviously Irabunam, the big one. Hull seems to have been in for him, then he'd gone away. Then they come back again, it seems. Like so Patterson, there was a bit of talk about clubs abroad looking at him earlier on. Nothing's materialised there. Dwight McNeil, another one who you would feel is surplus to requirements. Linked to West Ham early on in the window. Nothing for quite a while there. Going into the last year of his contract, if I'm not mistaken. So Everton would like to do some kind of deal and get rid of him permanently, as opposed to doing the famous loan with an obligation. But I don't think there's any kind of 1 year extension on the table for Everton to activate so we get a fee at the end of his loan. So Everton want a permanent deal done for these kind of players. Beto is another one, going into the last 12 months of his contract. No sign of a new one, from what I'm aware. There's been talk that Forest were sniffing around Beto. There's been a couple of clubs abroad who are interested as well. Everton, I'm sure, if they get the right fee for him, will look to move him on. We've seen probably a bit more of Tierno Barry over the course of the pre-season. I think he looks sharp. Obviously scored a goal against Dundee. Great assist for Maitland Newell against Hamburg last weekend as well. Looks bigger, stronger. Obviously, issue with the shoulder last season, which had a big impact, that dislocation that he'd suffered in the second half of the season. So hopefully now that's all sorted. So maybe this is going to be the making of Tierno Barry, and I'd expect him, all being well, no injuries before that first game of the season. I can see Tierno Barry getting a nod for that first game. But still a lot of work to do. Things will rumble on. Jack Grealish, we know the situation with Grealish. Why would Everton want to pay Jack Grealish to be sitting there going through rehab? He stayed with us, obviously, last season because he had a contract. He did his rehab until the back end of June. He's a Manchester City player now. Everton aren't going to want to pay him money just to go through that. So for me, that'll be done potentially deadline day. He wants to come back. We know Everton want him. So I'm sure that deal will be done. But that will be a late one, as will obviously a few more, I'm sure, both incomings and outgoings. As long as not the right back, and the right back is sorted over the next sort of week or so, then I think we'll all be quite pleased about that. Obviously, forgot to mention tonight at the start, shirt behind me, number change, it seems, for a certain Jarrad Branthwaite from 32 to 4, 26, 27 away shirt there. Got it printed in the shop. I think it was the first one that they did because they weren't doing them. But then he played with Hamburg, obviously with the number on the back of his shirt and his name pretty nailed on. If he doesn't, then that'll be a collector's item then anyway, won't it? But it looks great. I think number 4, proper centre halves number. So I expect that to be confirmed over the next couple of weeks in terms of the players' numbers. Obviously, as I mentioned already, pre-season rolls on tomorrow against Stuttgart. Another game in Germany. After a decent showing, it's got to be said that the Hamburg game I thought was a really enjoyable watch. Obviously, mistakes here and there, and players are still getting sharp, aren't they? And now's the time to get those out of your system. But I thought some really exciting attacking play from the likes of Tyreek George, Tierno Barry, Dewsbury Hall, Hackney linking up, Asnu when he came on as well, Bright, Braden Graham when he came on, obviously got the assist for the own goal. So I think there was some nice stuff played against Hamburg. Hopefully that can continue against Stuttgart. Obviously, as I say, Iliman Ndiaye's back. You'd assume you get some kind of, maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the back end of that particular game. But another week into pre-season should be sharper again. Hopefully we see some decent football there before we head to Edinburgh to face Newcastle United next Wednesday in a bit of trouble by the looks of it, the way they're selling players at this moment in time and the best players. Before we have our final friendly of pre-season, our home friendly against Lille. So not long to go now before the Premier League season kicks off, which is quite exciting. It's always for me exciting to get back to the proper football. Despite obviously how people feel about how pre-season might go and signings and things like that, but I'm still feeling fairly positive. I've got to be honest with you, but we'll discuss that in more detail on the main podcast next week. Myself, I'm back at Goodison tomorrow. Obviously a bit of a strange one. Preston are playing Huddersfield in the Carabao Cup first round. They've asked to play at Goodison Park because the Deepdale pitch is not ready. So down there in the family enclosure, back over the family enclosure, great view there towards the Gladys Street end. So I'm excited to get back down to Goodison for competitive men's football. Obviously, I've been back to see Everton women last season, but to get obviously the men's football on down there, I think is interesting. A lot of people I think weren't too happy about the fact that they got to use Goodison Park, and obviously last time we played there against Southampton in that final game at Goodison Park, we all felt that was the final competitive game at the ground for men. Hasn't been the case, but I would rather see the ground used. I think it's fantastic to get that opened up tomorrow and see a bit of summer football down at Goodison, and I'm excited to get down there. Hopefully, there's a few Evertonians, I'm sure there will be, knocking around. There's a lovely commemorative programme being brought out as well, which looks really nice, the artwork on the front. So it'll be good to get down there for the first time in a good while and enjoy a bit of football stress-free. No pressure for me, get down there, couple of donuts, cup of coffee, and I'll be happy, hopefully in the summer sunshine watching that. As I said, we'll be back with the main podcast next weekend. Lee's still away, he's in Bali, he's always away, isn't he? Let's be perfectly honest. But we'll be back doing the Premier League preview show next weekend. I'm away for a few days next week, but I'll try and squeeze out a news for the Blues at the back end of the week as well, as we get up to basically in full swing, should I say, and up to speed before the big kickoff the following weekend. Excited for that. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Make sure that you subscribe. It really helps us to grow the channel on YouTube. Obviously Spotify, iTunes, thanks for listening on there. We do appreciate it. I'll be back and I'll see you all next week.